But you know, my guest today is a beautiful wife and mother who was born with a rare congenital birth defect that left her with arms she can barely use. Sarah Kovac has adapted to her disability. She's learned to use her hands, her feet as her hands. And she certainly faced insecurities and struggles. But Sarah is living a life embraced by grace in capable arms. Can't wait to talk with her today. Well, growing up, Sarah Kovac was the only child in her class with a disability, setting her apart as odd and unpopular. Today, she is a bright beacon of hope who inspires thousands. She's living a life of purpose and joy in capable arms. Now, I know whose arms are embracing you with grace, Sarah, but this has to be a play on words because you are incapable of many things.
Right.
But wow, you nursed a baby before coming on this set.
Right.
And go ahead and have a sip of tea.
Oh yes, well I was going to do that. I've got a little bit of a sore throat anyway, so.
Unbelievable. AMC.
Right.
Stands for?
Arthrogryposis multiplex congenita.
Now, you will not hear me attempt to say that. But, you know, as recently as this past fall, a young woman brought this rare condition to the fore on X Factor. Right. In fact, made the top 10. We're going to see a little footage here of Ryan Page, 13 years old. This is the exact same condition.
Correct.
Club feet and curved hands.
It depends on the person.
Category?
Sometimes she doesn't appear to have any issues with her legs, and I don't either. But
clearly,
it's very common for the legs to be affected, the feet and the spine, and so Ryan and I actually got off a little bit easy as far as AMC goes, if you want to look at it that way.
Much worse.
Yes.
You impressed me telling me one of the ways you keep fit, a pedal-powered kayak.
I was so excited to get that. I actually didn't know they existed until a couple of years ago, and they're made by Hobie. It's called a Mirage Drive, and they've got little flippers underneath the kayak. So when you pedal, the little flippers go like a little penguin and makes the boat go through the water that way. So when I wrote my book, I used my advance to buy one because I've never had a physical sport that I could really get into because I'm sort of physically fragile, and you know there are a lot of things I can't do. So I was really excited to get that.
How rare is this?
It occurs in about 1 in 4,000 live births.
Just reading about your parents in that moment of new baby, only child. And your dad said, you know, your arms seem to be very straight and your hands curved, but it wasn't an immediate something is out of whack with this baby.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, what you read is about the only time we've ever really talked about that moment. I've got that interview at the end of my book. But for them, you know, in the 80s, sonograms weren't what they are today, and they had no idea that I had a disability until that moment I was born. So I'm sure, you know, new babies look funny anyway. They're, you know, all colors and covered in goop and curled up, and so I'm sure they didn't really understand what was happening immediately. But the doctors whisked me away, and pretty soon they knew that there was something not right.
You call your parents your heroes.
Yes.
They embraced this.
Yes. I'm sure that it took time, you know, I'm sure that it was something they had to grieve because you don't ever expect your child to have to deal with something like that. And you don't expect that to be your parenting experience. And, but they have dealt with it and moved forward with it beautifully, and I think I can't imagine having better parents that would have dealt with it any better than them.
I love their heart. They said you were special in ways that had nothing to do with special needs.
Right.
We see it now, but oh dear, the journey, tough.
Yeah.
Tough for a long time.
Yes, and I mean, there were times that I was so depressed that I considered suicide. And I've always, you know, we're a creative family, so there's a lot of emotions that run very deep in my family. My mom's an artist and my dad's a musician, and I played some music growing up and did some art and do some writing, so we're all those weird creative types. So, you know, it's not unusual to think that I would have some deep melancholy sort of emotions, but it took some time for me to really work through those things and get to a place where that depression is rare, you know.
I love the way you phrase it. You had to battle your inner victim. And for all kinds of reasons, people can be dealing with an inner victim. How did that worldview change?
I don't know that I can pinpoint the moment, except for maybe when I became a mother. I didn't have time to be a victim anymore. You know, I didn't have time to let my circumstances rule over me and make me feel small, because there was somebody depending on me for life and sustenance, and that's the first time that I really felt like somebody was relying on me rather than the other way around. And
You
so,
must have wondered, would I ever marry? Could I
Yeah.
ever be a mother?
Sure. And would somebody be able to accept me and even love the parts about me that are flawed and that aren't what they should be? But you know, I found that God had a man waiting for me. So.
Go ahead, you have to tell the romance story. 'Cause it's the cutest can be.
Well, he found me on MySpace, which again, that, you know, for the young people, that's what came before Facebook and Twitter. But he thought I was cute, and he sent me a message asking if I would go on a date with him, and I thought that was a little bit strange and a little bit quick, and I told my friend about it and was going to tell him no. And
Adam lived apparently only about 5 minutes.
yeah, he was same town as me.
Wow.
And she said, well, hey, I went to school with him. He's actually really nice. You should give him a chance. And so I agreed to meet him at Dairy Queen because it's, you know, open and well lit and people are there. So I didn't figure he'd be able to abduct me if he was somebody creepy. But he wasn't. I could have met him anywhere. And we hit it off. And a year and a half later, we were married on a beach in the Dominican Republic, actually. So.
Wow. Now here's the sweet part. Adam said this just before we came on air. He said, God put a blinder on me, because he saw a picture of you, but he didn't see your disability.
Yeah, he didn't see it. And
Meeting you didn't change.
Right. And I told
It's
him before we
interesting.
ever met, you know, I told him, if you haven't noticed this, I do have a disability, and I don't want to, you know, make you feel like I was trying to trick you into meeting me. And that didn't change anything. And we showed up, and he was actually nervous to talk. You know, you could tell he was a little nervous, and that just blew me away, because he thought enough of me that he was nervous around me, you know, and wanted to show me off.
Impress you.
Yes, and that was a first for me. So, and I knew that he was somebody to keep.
Sarah, I just think of, well, let's have a family picture. Can we? I haven't even seen this yet. Here is this precious family. The baby is here and a little older.
Yep.
Taylor is 4 months old now.
Right.
And Ethan 4 years. What a
Yes.
beautiful family.
Oh, thank you.
Now here's just a neat insight, because I wasn't in the room when you were nursing, but I said I thought, well, you can hold the baby while nursing. This is kind of you could have had surgery and it was considered to straighten out your hands, but what God permitted here is actually a blessing for a mom.
Absolutely. And there was a point where I was in occupational therapy. They were having me do things, you know, to try to help me to use my hands more, and they tried to help me to straighten my fingers out more, and I would cheat. I like to do things my own way. I didn't want them telling me how to. So, you know, if my therapist got on a phone call or something, I would cheat and, you know, finish up the game, and they pretty soon said, well, maybe she's better on her own. So I'm sort of a therapy flunky, but I'm really glad that it happened that way, because my hands being curled under helped me to carry my children and other things. So it was a blessing that it happened that way.
Now you've been asked billions of times, but food preparation, making meals. I'm just thinking of all the things that, changing diapers, putting on makeup with your feet,
Right. Yeah.
making dinner.
Well, see, I can cook, but I married a man who is a good cook, so I don't have to cook very often. Thank goodness. I do breakfast, but not usually dinner. But yeah, my mom works for an architect, and so they got me an architect's chair that sits about the same level as the counter, so I can sit in the chair and use my feet. It used to be that I would have to hop up on the counter, sit on the counter, and use my feet if I wanted to prepare any kind of food, but now I can kind of roll around the kitchen and do things that way. There's always a way, you know, even if it took us 20 years to figure it out, you know, it seems like God always provides a way for me to do what I need to do, and to do it with, you know, in a way that is even easier for me than I would have expected.
Talk about these capable arms of grace that have brought you to this place, Sarah.
Well, That my book's title comes from a moment when I was sitting with my son, and he was so much younger than he is now. And he was in my arms, and I was rocking him to sleep. I did it every night, and I still, you know, until the baby, I would still cuddle him to sleep at night. That's the kind of mom I am. And we were rocking to sleep, and I thought, how amazing is it that he's comfortable in my arms? You know, they don't bend, they're not very soft, but that's the place that he wants to be. And even though they're not capable, I just felt like, you know, God had his arms under mine, you know, and that Ethan, my son, might be resting in my arms, but really he's in the most capable arms that there are, because God is supporting me in what I'm doing. So becoming a mother has really changed my perspective on a lot of things, but that has been huge for me to know that I don't have to hold all this up. I don't have to be strong enough, because he is.
It reminds me of the paralytic when you say in the book, God knew healing my broken body would do nothing for my broken spirit. Mm-hmm. And I think that has to be the starting place. We have symptoms of our deeper issues, but the Lord knows where the real healing needs to take place.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was so much in my heart that that he still continues to heal. That if he had just healed my arms and given me what I wanted and moved forward, then I would still be a completely broken person, way more broken than I am now anyway. And so if I was given the choice of him healing me the way he did, or him giving me arms that function normally, I would, hands down, choose what he did.
Stunning to think you typed this on a computer.
With my toes, yes.
With your toes. You're going to want to read this wonderful story. Incapable Arms, Sarah Kovac at our e-store. I hope you're encouraged today. Maybe you're living with a broken spirit and you need prayer right now. Do call our prayer lines. Tomorrow, it's Tuesday. You know what that means? Food. RF in the Daniel Plan. Don't miss it. Have a great day.